Tax Defaulted Real Estate for Beginners. So welcome back. Real estate is considered to be an asset class in its own right. So that means it's become very popular, especially as an investment over the past 50 years. And that's partially due to the markets inflating. So the markets have really changed. So real estate is considered an asset class, which is not expected from a lot of people. Now, there's a number of ways for investors to make money in real estate. For example, you could buy and hold it like many people do when they own a house and they live in it. Or you could do that by becoming a landlord, which seems to be a favorite where people like to buy property and rent it in the hopes that they're going to have tenants that are going to help them pay for it. So in the past 2 decades, entrepreneurs have invented a new category, and it's called flippers. All right, now what's a flipper? Well, that's one of those entrepreneurs that's kind of helped invent the category of buying what they determine is an undeveloped or an unvalued property and then selling it quickly. Now, they might fix it up, they might just clean it up, or they might know how to market it. But that's a new market, and it's only been around for a few years. So if you haven't noticed, whenever a new market comes out, well, then a lot of people gravitate to that market. And what really happens? Well, suddenly all these new people want to be in that market because they see these giant profits, and it becomes very competitive. I would say today it's a little bit overly competitive, and that happens because the profits are so high with flippers. So my name is Ted Thomas. I've been involved in a subset of traditional real estate for the past 30 years. Now, that subset is tax defaulted real estate. Now, prior to that, I was involved for a number of years in the foreclosure business, which is similar to tax liens and tax deeds, although it's completely different. But they're all properties that have gone into some sort of distressed situation. So that's how they're similar. Now, both of these markets attract fixer-upper guys and gals, and they like to buy these properties, and many of them they like to do fixer-uppers and so on. But it's a huge market nationwide. So I'm going to talk a lot about tax defaulted property, so those of you can learn that from a beginner standpoint, and I'll be right back. Okay, so today's episode is all about tax defaulted real estate for beginners. All right, now before I get into this market, it's important to understand if you're a newcomer, well, this is completely different, and it's rare for people to know about it. So you're not going to be able to go to a lot of people and get a lot of questions answered. So young people and old people will always encourage you to buy real estate. Now, especially older people that bought a property, lived in it for 30 years, they're going to brag about when they sold it, how much money they made. So when you're talking to your grandfather, you're talking to an adult that sold real estate, that owned it for a long time, they're going to tell you how profitable real estate really is. All right, now when they talk about that, I don't know how long they've owned it, but if they owned it for 20 or 30 years, well, when they sell it, they're going to make a fabulous profit. Well, let's kind of digest that a little bit. So they're going to have bought it at one price, and now they'll have sold it at another price. So they might have collected hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's almost like a gold mine, almost like a windfall of winning the lottery because they held that house for so long. So will they brag about real estate? Yes. But there's a whole side of it that, even though it's true, people want to forget about. Well, you can't forget about real estate because what happens when you buy real estate, what do you have to do? Well, you're going to have to do things like make payments on it. That's mortgage payments, right? You're going to have to fix the roof, or maybe there's a foundation that needs some work. But over the 20 or 30 years of holding it, you're going to put a lot of money back into that real estate. So most people have made in real estate is they bought it at one price, and now it's 30 years later. So they basically made money on inflation. So I doubt if you want to wait 30 years to make money. So what is our episode about today? It's about tax defaulted real estate for beginners. So I want to show you a way to make money where you're going to make your money when you start. And by that I mean you're going to make your money when you buy, and you'll go to the bank when you sell. All right, but most people are talking about real estate because they held it for a long time. If you hold real estate for a long time, you're definitely going to get more cash in. However, I don't know if it buys anymore because the inflation during that period made the money worth less, but it looks like a ton of money. Now, I've been involved in traditional real estate, and I've been involved in tax defaulted, and I've been involved in the tax defaulted mostly over the past 30 years because once I discovered this little-known business that was highly lucrative, I never looked back after that because I found out I could buy properties for pennies on the dollar. So what am I saying, pennies on the dollar? Well, this is a profitable business, and most people don't understand it. And here's why. Now, there's over 5,000 auctions taking place across the United States this year. Now, they're all taking place at the local county level. So there's over 3,000 counties. All 3,000 counties are authorized to sell tax defaulted real estate. So how did that come about? Well, it simply means that property owners in all of those counties did not pay their property tax. Maybe they abandoned it, maybe they passed away, maybe they just don't want to pay taxes. But I'm going to tell you, the legislature of each of the states has said everyone will pay property tax. So they mandate that you must pay property tax, but some of them don't pay. So what happens? Well, the legislature and the county board of supervisors will do something about it. What do? Well, the first thing they do, they're going to levy the tax. They'll put those people in default. They'll levy the tax. They'll try to collect the tax. If they can't collect the tax, they're going to seize. They're going to seize that property, and they're going to confiscate it, and they're going to push the people off the property. They'll push them off the property, and then they'll sell that property at a tax-defaulted auction. A tax-defaulted auction means they're going to start at very close to the back taxes. So they don't care what the property value is. They don't want the property. In other words, the county does not want the property. But what they do want is they want the revenue, and they want that revenue so they can pay county employees, pay the police department, pay the fire department, pay for hospitals, fix the roads, and do things like that. So this system works throughout the United States. You see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. So all properties have a tax assessment. However, the treasurer and the tax collector, they don't want these properties, but they're forced to go out and do all the collections. So what will they do? They'll seize the property and then they'll sell it at an auction. All right, now this is a solution for beginners. Why? Because tax defaulted real estate is going to be sold at close to the back taxes. That means it can be sold for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. It's always sold to the highest bidder. Now, every county can have a tax defaulted auction, and they do. And they're starting the bids at very close to the back taxes. All right, so what's going to happen if you buy one of these properties? Well, you can sell it at whatever you want. So let's say you bought it at 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. It doesn't matter what you sell it for. That margin of that could be a margin of profit for you. So you could sell it, so you could buy it at 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, and then you could sell it for 50 or 60 cents on the dollar. So buying is the key, and you're buying at the right price. So you make your money when you buy. So what I'm saying is the tax assessed value will be determined by the local government. The tax assessor will do that. They're going to sell that property at a much lower price. The treasurer just wants to get the property sold. So they're going to discount it 60%, 70%, even 80% less than the tax assessed value. Now, folks, if you could buy a tax defaulted property at 60, 70, and 80% below the tax assessed value, how many of those would you want to buy? Especially when I tell you at the auction, the mortgage is going to be canceled. They're going to cancel the mortgage. It's wiped out. The deed of trust loan, they're wiped off the property. So now you're buying for basically back taxes. So if you're a tax defaulted auction buyer and you're a beginner, you're trying to buy those properties for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar. You can sell them for anything you want. So tax defaulted auctions are conducted in all 3,000 counties. It's always conducted by the treasurer and tax collector, and the mortgage and the deed of trust are wiped off the property. So anybody can buy these properties. All you need, these are public auctions. They're notified on the county website. They're also in the local newspaper. So you're kind of getting the idea. So anybody can buy it. Now think about this. If you could buy for 20 and 30 cents on the dollar, would you be a lot better off than spending 100 cents on the dollar and starting your real estate? Well, of course you would. So the money is made when you buy at the auction. Folks, let's review quickly. The treasurer in every county is authorized to sell tax defaulted property. They announce the auction on their website and in the newspaper. Now, I'm in the business of teaching people how to buy low and then how to sell low. I want you to buy the property as close to the back taxes as possible, and then you can sell for whatever you want. The tax assessed value has nothing to do with what the selling price is. The treasurer determines what the selling price is. So most people, what are they doing? They're trying to buy property for 100 cents on the dollar and make money. You're going to try to buy property for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. All right, what are you going to have to do with it? You're going to have to market it. Now, most people don't know anything about marketing. So what do? They sit on the property and wait for it to sell. Now, that one simple blunder is what keeps people from making a successful business. So you must know what pricing is, what you're going to sell the property of, and you want to be able to make sure that you can sell that real estate quickly. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can put it on the multiple listing. You can sell it on Craigslist. You could sell it on Zillow. You could use Trulia. You can put signs on the front lawn. You're getting the idea. You want to learn how to sell these properties. So you buy them low, and then you sell them low. Now, why would you want to sell them low? Because you don't want to have to use a lot of fancy sales techniques. What you want to do is you want to be able to sell it and do it quickly. Well, people want to buy it under market. So if you bought it a low price, why not sell it at a low price? People will come to you. They're glad to give you the money. You don't have to have any fancy sales techniques. Before I leave, I want you to know this. Number one, if you're going to buy tax defaulted properties, you must look at the property. Boots on the ground. You don't know whether there was a fire or a hurricane or whether it's next to a chicken or a pig farm. So you want to look at the property, and when you're there looking, you also want to determine what your exit strategy is going to be so that you don't bid too high at the auction. Don't forget, request your free auction list right below me.